about another 10 or so other cards that really kind of like, you know, are like morph into whatever the metagame happens to be.
Yeah, if you looked at one of the articles I wrote a couple of weeks ago, it was about the non-Delver decks in the metagame. And what I did was I looked at the shells of Infect and Zombies. This is a post-Portland article that I wrote. And the shell has a pretty solid base if you include the land, where they generally had about 50 to 52 cards that were the base part of that, and then a little bit of play after this. But Danny kind of throws a number into this with his Butcher Ghouls, his Bloodthrone Vampires, and then Active Aggression amongst other cards. So I mean, you really can, with those, you know, let's say 8 to 11 cards that are different from your version to another version, greatly change the character of the deck. Like, think about Delver. If a Delver deck is not running Geist of St. Traft and instead is running Blade Splicer, that often has ramifications that kind of reverberate throughout what your deck is capable of doing. And that might mean you're likely to go to 4 Restoration Angels. And now you're 5 cards different than another list, which might be like, let's say, I believe Helger Vigersma, who's running 17 land, is it?
Yeah, 17 or 18. Not a lot of land. Basically, what I think the general story is, you should always kind of like challenge the traditional orthodoxy of some of the deck lists. I mean, Danny's really done it here. A lot of the changes in Delver over the past weeks, you know, at some point Geist of St. Traft just came out. I mean, like, yeah, Blade Splicer was the common card.
And the reason is, in Magic, the one constant is everything changes. You know, if you are a Geist player and suddenly you're in a world where there are tons of creatures on the table, Geist starts to look a lot less good.
Yeah, and we saw decks without equipment, no equipment. They had Spectral Flight instead. That really brings a different angle, like puts a lot more pressure, changes exactly how you play against it. Especially sideboard cards. Okay, it looks like they're starting up.
A lot of people thought this weekend was going to be the last hurrah for the ramp decks, and it looks like it's a bridemaid proposition rather than the bride. Reed Duke was our highest ramp player, Wolf Run Blue, 9th place in this open, and in the top 8 of the Invitational, I don't believe any of the players that were playing in the Invitational, they're in the top 8, had a Wolf Run list for their standard deck. They're going to be playing Legacy in the top 8, but those predictions of a last-minute push for Wolf Run did not seem to come true. Reed Duke trying, but just barely falling short.
Yeah, so Josh is on the play. Danny is on the draw. Danny is mulliganing. Josh has had the option of going first because of his higher standing. It's one of the new changes that has recently happened for tournaments. For the top 8, people of the higher standing get to choose to play the draw. So it's really, really important to actually win some of those crucial late rounds, or maybe not even draw into the top 8 sometimes.
You know, one of the things I definitely saw at a recent Open, I can't remember if this was in Detroit or after that, but it was after that announced change. Kudos, WotC, for making organized play better. And what's this? A turn 1, is that a Delver?
Yep.
Turn 1 Delver.
And turn 1 Diagraph Ghoul from Danny.
This is the way that these two decks both want to start. But kudos to WotC for that change of the higher seed getting the choice, because it really does influence decision making in a good way.
Yeah, and it really shows that, you know, I mean, tournaments have been run for, you know, almost 20 years now, and they're still innovating, still changing, just like the formats.
Delver joins Delver, and the corpse that is on the table, that Diagraph Ghoul, gets to come on in and gets joined by a Butcher Ghoul. And Josh Robinson, natural flip, Thought Scour, ouch.
Needed to wait 1 turn for it, but basically got the second Delver as part of the bargain.
I know the secret.
So Josh is thinking whether he's going to take the Thought Scour. Really, really puts Danny on the back foot, bringing Danny down to 13 life.
And an image.
And I believe that image...
I mean, it could reasonably be just the insect, or it could reasonably be the Butcher Ghoul.
Yeah. attacks for 3, brings Josh down to 15. So Danny doing a little bit of math here.
And he realizes that the goal here is not to be pushing the aggression. And
Yeah.
that is an image on the insectile aberration. The goal here is not to be pushing the aggression, but rather to be trying to stunt this damage. And I have to say, Danny, kudos for getting the math right here, that you need to do the other direction, not the aggressive one. That's one of the hardest skills for aggressive decks, is recognizing when they have to make choices to slow the game down rather than go as fast as they want.
Yeah, one of the key things you'll see here is that play basically meant that this attack only brought Danny down to 7, which actually means that without, let's say, a Vapor Snag or a Gut Shot, he does not have lethal. He needs to present something else.
Is that a Blood Artist?
Is it a Blood
times
Artist?
2? Is that 2 Blood Artists?
It is. No, it's a Geralt's Messenger as well, but he does play the Blood Artist
I
here.
thought I saw another Blood Artist besides the Messenger. The first Blood Artist, does it resolve? This is a really intriguing card because a card like Blood Artist can change the math around quite a bit. In they come for 3.
Especially if he has a sack outlet, but I believe he has a Gravecrawler and a Geralt's Messenger.
That is a Gravecrawler. Now he is presenting onto the table 5 power. Okay,
And that's the 1
there's
damage.
the 1 damage that needs to
Yeah.
take it. And that is it. Game 1, like that, lightning fast, is done.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it was the big advantage of going first that game. It was pretty much the only difference between the two starts. Danny basically trying to bait Josh into countering the Blood Artist because maybe there was like a Bloodthrone Vampire like coming after, and if that
Yeah.
was the case, he would have gotten enough life.
Now, besides the win in that game, once again, more winners can come to us at home. So if you're watching us right now, it's at SCG Live on Twitter, but you're going to be using your Twitter for something else to win premium, 1 free year of premium, with the hashtag, you can see it right there, SCG Premium. Hashtag SCG Premium. What you're going to do is you're going to tweet that and the answer to a trivia question, and one amongst you that has the correct answer will get 1 free year of premium. I have the question in mind, and I'm going to let you all know what that is. So, in the Invitational, there were 2 players who, at the end of day 1, were the top of the heap, the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. They were playing a Legacy deck. What Legacy deck were the number 1 and 2 seeds from day 1 playing? I'll give you a hint.
Whoa.
Cedric Phillips was the number 2 seed. So, the number 1 and 2 seeds were both playing what deck in Legacy at the end of day 1? What were they playing? It's an old deck.
Yeah, it's an old deck. Came back from a little bit of obscurity.
Yeah.
I think it's really here to stay. I think
it's back.
We've seen some great versions of it. You'll actually see one version of it in the top 8.
That's right. So after this, we're going to go to the Invitational. So you'll be seeing it played. Remember, hashtag SCG Premium is required in order to make sure you have an opportunity to win that prize. What, at the end of day 1, was the number 1 and number 2 seed in the Legacy portion?
But before we get to that top 8, we still have the matter of a Standard Open to finish off here, and this is game 2 of the final of the Standard Open between Danny Goldstein and Josh Robinson. Danny Goldstein with Black Red Zombies, Josh on Blue White Delver. Josh was victorious in the first game. So Danny is on the play.
Now, Danny, I think the thing that's kind of interesting, that Danny Goldstein, the number 4 seed in this tournament, barely edged out by Josh Robinson as the number 3 seed. If Danny had gone first, I think this could have been a very different game. You know, they both had the opening start that they want, Delver and then Diregraph Ghoul. But let's change it around, and Danny goes Diregraph Ghoul, and then Josh goes Delver, and then Danny attacks for 2 and lays another creature. on the turn 3, he wouldn't have had to volley. He could have just laid instead the Giraffe's Messenger and only been facing down 3 in the air instead of 6 in the air.
Yeah, so one of the changes I've seen in Black Red Zombies, and it's not in Danny's deck, is the change of Brimstone Volley to Flames of the Firebrand. That actually would have probably made the difference in this game. Would have been able to take out a Insectile Aberration and the image. Instead, the volley could only hit one thing, could only stop 3 damage rather than 6 damage. It could have made the difference, and it's those little changes that could really kind of like swing a matchup very, very well.
Yeah, you were talking about Flames of the Firebrand yesterday, and I mean, this is a card that was so influential when it was printed that Patrick Chapin and me and Nate Heist made a song up about it. It was Arc Lightning. The chorus was, "Arc Lightning is very, very, very deadly." I'm kind of curious if this is the time for Flames of the Firebrand. A card like Arc Lightning or Flames of the Firebrand, that, for those of you who don't know, red 2 sorcery, split up 3 damage whatever way you want. A card like that is at its best when there are tons of little creatures running around. So in the new standard that's about to hit us with Return to Ravnica, we'll find out if it's time to shine.
Though Danny does have some good removal spells that are particularly good against Delver. He has Tragic Slip. Tragic Slip's great because it can kind of do double duty, kills the early Delver as well as the Restoration Angel in some situations. He has Mortarpod, which is great at suppressing both the Delver and the Snapcasters. And he has a Go for the Throat. Go for the Throat, obviously, like particularly good against killing anything. And off the sideboard, he has a Doomblade. One of the really cool interactions that Danny has in his deck is he has an Active Aggression in his main and sideboard. Now, obviously, it can do the normal kind of like what is it, a Ray of Command style, kind of like stealing and attacking ability.
You're going old school, Ray of Command.
But the little bit different combination that Danny has is he has Bloodthrone Vampire and Falconwrath Aristocrat to sack creatures to. So what he can do is he can steal the opponent's creature, then attack with it, and then sacrifice it to his own creature later to basically ensure that his opponent doesn't get it back.
This is a good point. He has way more sacrifice outlets than a lot of people do. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Ben Seck. You can see Danny Goldstein on the left with Black Red Zombies. He is on the play. He lost game 1 to Josh Robinson with Blue White Delver. This is the finals of the Standard Open.
Danny looks like he's definitely kept his hand. It looked like he had a mix of lands and spells, which pleased him. Josh, on the other hand, is in the tank. Really doesn't look super happy about his hand here. He's putting it back, going for 6. So it's the fair mulligan. Danny mulliganed first in the first game. Josh is repaying him in kind. Remember to tune in after this game. We're going to be bringing you the final 8 of the Star City Games Invitational. The Invitational actually gave away $75,000 to players, and the winner is actually going to get $15,000. It's just an incredible amount of money for a great tournament series.
A real quick hint: if you happen to see, we're talking right now about the premium question about the Invitational you just mentioned. If you happen to see Chris Bakula and see his answer, Counter Sliver, I'm going to let you all know that is indeed a old archetype, an oldie but a goodie, and it is maybe even the old answer we're looking for, but maybe not. You be the judge.
Counter Sliver.
Now, if I remember correctly, Pakula has done some commentary of his own, and he's actually one of my favorite commentators of all time.
No, absolutely. Chris is entertaining. He has a lot of funny anecdotes. He's a great player. He's made 3 top 8s.
You know, and one of the things as a storyteller, he's been a very influential storyteller as well. I was hearing someone's bad beat story. It was just an overwhelming bad beat story, and I waited for him to say, and then you won? Nope, he didn't. No Pakula action there. We have an opening of the game. Diregraph Ghoul for turn 1 on Danny Goldstein's side of the table. Josh Robinson, nothing. And looks like 2 damage is going to hit. Danny Goldstein, is he going to lay up? Oh, it's a Blood Artist. I was thinking there might be a Butcher, but it's a Blood Artist.
Looks like Danny has a good, pretty good hand. He's going to curve into a Geralt's Messenger next turn.
Augur of Bolas finds a Vapor Snag. That 1/3 body is a sufficiently large body to hold off the Diregraph Ghoul without some help.
Yeah, he's just drawn a Falconwrath Aristocrat, which is like a huge deal against the 1/3 body. He's also got a Geralt's Messenger.
And Josh Robinson, he's got to be thinking, what's he doing to attack here? Why would he do that? Tragic Slip? Is that what I've got to worry about?
Yeah, so he's probably playing her as Tragic Slip, Mortarpod. There's a few options.
He blocks.
No reason not to block, really. The 1/3 body's not that important that he needs to like protect it.
I mean, it's not like it's an Ophidian or something.
Yeah, it's meant to block, really. That's what it's there for. Danny Goldstein follows up with the Geralt's Messenger, doing 2 damage to Josh.
Blade Splicer. This is going to be very valuable. The Blade Splicers, there are 3 in the sideboard, and that body, that 3 first striking body, that's a big deal. Holds off all of Danny Goldstein's attackers on the ground and forces him to turn to the air.
But he actually drew a second Falconwrath Aristocrat, which is like an incredible card to really draw right now. He's like, he's gonna be able to bring Josh down to 12.
Cavern of Souls, that's Vampire.
Vampire. So and then also it represents yet another 4 another set of damage on the table because of the Blood Artist and the Geralt's Messenger. And the second one, like, is basically lethal at that point, especially in the face of the fact that he's got already a Brimstone Volley in hand. And
Danny is gonna do 4. Now, just with what's in play, Josh Robinson at 12, because of Blood Artist and Falconwrath Aristocrat, we can actually get a ton of damage in.
Yeah, he's basically at 8.
Less than that even, because of the Geralt's Messenger. He's basically at 6. To be fair, he's at 7. He can only he can't sacrifice both the Aristocrat and the Blood Artist and have the Blood Artist in play.
No, but he can sack the Geralt's Messenger twice.
Yes, this is true. So there it is. Actually, you're right. So it's 8. Or pardon me. 2.
2 and 4. So he's
so 6 is down there. Yeah. This means then that the next Aristocrat hitting play. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's just such a threat. Unless Josh Robinson has a...
we know he's a Vapor Snag.
Yeah, unless he has that Vapor Snag, it's really bad times for him. Okay. Rune Chanter's Pike.
Okay.
And now, what that means, though, is that he's actually just dead because of, even with the Vapor Snag, the Brimstone Volley in hand will finish the job.
So what he's going to do here is probably...
And what you see Josh Robinson doing here is contemplating whether it's worthwhile to attack with his other creatures.
So
another Aristocrat. And he goes into the red zone with just the vampires. Vapor Snag hits one of them.
He may sack it.
He might. I think it's worthwhile to consider just actually letting it return to his hand, though, too. Because by returning it to his hand, that cavern means it can't be stopped on the way back down again next turn.
I think Danny's already thinking about casting that volley, so he's trying to work out whether he will actually even need to cast it next turn. So
he sacrificed. He returns it.
He
Okay.
returns it back to his hand.
Go to 8. And remember, right now on the table is 6 damage, presuming.
At the very least.
He says go. A quick reminder, coming up next, Magic the Newsening, featuring our own Ruben Bressler, is coming up right after this. I believe that you get the opportunity to see Ruben in his amazing impersonation of Queen's frontman Freddie Mercury.
Ruben's sporting quite the mustache this weekend.
I think there's been a post-World Magic Cup mustache craze.
Yeah, no, David Ochoa, very, very dapper in his mustache. I know I saw Luis Scott Vargas.
Yep.
He had one too. I'm not sure exactly what's brought this on. It's not like it's Movember or anything like that.
Playfulness. At U.S. Nationals in 2001, a whole crew of players showed up like they were out of the Sabotage video for some reason. If you know what I'm talking about, the Beastie Boys Sabotage video. So you can see Ruben Bressler, Magic the Newsening, coming up just after this match. And right now, we just had that attack which Josh Robinson used a Vapor Snag to return 1 Falcon Wrath Aristocrat to Danny Goldstein's hand. He's at 8 life. He's facing on the table 6 damage because of the combination of Sacrifice Effects and Blood Artist. Now, Josh Robinson untapped, trying to find a path out of what can only be called a mess.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have a flyer to block the Aristocrat the next turn. He knows this, you know, if he's done the math, he knows that there's at least another 4 damage on table now. Sorry, another 6 damage, putting him to 2. He can't afford to run creatures into Danny's creatures.
And he says go. He passes with everything open. The most amount of things open.
Wow,
I see a tragic slip. That was absolutely devastating.
Yeah, just gives him just a little bit more kind of insurance against kind of like something like terrible going on, because it basically is a murder because of the sacrifice effects. Now Danny, like very strong here, and he knows he's basically got this in hand. He just has to push through some final damage, force Josh to tap out or tap very low, and then
Angel.
Okay, so what's almost definitely going to happen
and
is
Danny's like, okay, whatever.
yeah, he's totally fine with that. He's going to basically sacrifice.
Now, with this cast, Danny now knows he has the game won. And the reason he has the game won, only 1 mana open, he cannot stop the Brimstone Volley that is going to guarantee 5 damage.
That's right. And that's all he needed. He basically will likely sack the Jarl's Messenger to the Falcon Wrath Aristocrat, thereby doing 3 damage, a combination of the Blood Artist and the Jarl's Messenger coming to the battlefield ability. Then be able to use the Morbid on the volley, basically, to finish him off.
And before we even get to the dealing of damage, he's like, okay, I'll sacrifice this to make this guy indestructible. You're going to lose 1. I'll gain 1. Blood Artist doing some awesome work. And how about this?
Yep.
So, that is going to make us go to a game 3. Now, importantly, you're wondering, I hear a couple of you on Twitter saying, What is that yelling in the background? That is the sound of the first draft open being called.
That's right.
We have 32 players out there, 64 players out there drafting Magic. That's 8 tables. The winner of each table is going to go on to a top 8 table, and that's one of 3 draft opens that are going on this weekend. I'm actually super curious who's out there. I know Jerry Thompson is.
Yeah.
I know that Brad Nelson is.
Each one of those tournaments gives $1,700, and there's 3 of those today. Like, wow. The amount of money given out this weekend is $100,000. So Josh is back on the play. At the end of the game, he actually revealed that he had a Celestial Purge in his hand, so he was kind of like trying to work out exactly, how he could get out of it. I think he was probably considering Celestial Purging the Blood Artist to try and like stop that amount of damage, but the problem with that is that the board itself, he could already sack the board and get him to 2. And definitely with the Brimstone Volley in hand, the game was pretty much over probably a turn ago.
Yeah, now if you think about how quickly that game rolled out, that was a very fast game. I mean, we had a turn 4 Falconwrath Aristocrat, a turn 5 second Falconwrath Aristocrat, and a turn 6, well, here's the volley for the kill.
So just having a look at Josh's sideboard, he actually has access to some very, very important cards for the matchup. He has 3 Celestial Purge, which basically act as a Vindicate for every one of Danny's non-land permanents. He also has 2 Oblivion Ring. The exile abilities are very, very important in this matchup, just because they don't trigger Blood Artist. They can both get Falconwrath Aristocrat, because Indestructible doesn't stop exile. These things are very, very important to kind of like the small edges in the sideboard really, really help him.
Yeah, and now another thing about Oblivion Ring, in this matchup, Danny Goldstein has no ways to handle an Oblivion Ring. I mean, Oblivion Ring is just a hard removal spell.
Yep. The other thing that's in the sideboard that I don't usually see in the sideboard is Blade Splicer. Blade Splicer is obviously like in the main deck a lot of the times, but very rarely have I seen it in the sideboard. The great thing about that is that it basically stops all of the ground defense of Danny Goldstein's deck.
And you know what's funny is that Josh Robinson, he boarded in that Blade Splicer, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It said, you know what? You don't get to attack me on the ground anymore. And Danny was like, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I think the Falconwrath Aristocrat is super important to know, to have in the deck. Basically, it gives out that reach. Means that a lot of the gumming up effects like Augur of Bolas and Blade Splicer really don't stop the opponent.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Selvin here in the booth with Ben Seth. And you're at the Star City Games Live Open Series. This is the finals of the finals of the Standard Open.
Okay, Danny's looking at his opening hand. It looks like he might be a little land shy. He's putting it back. Josh doesn't look like he's not mulliganing. So pretty much everyone on the draw has mulliganed this game and lost. But this is a very, very tempo-oriented game. Going first is a big, big advantage.
Absolutely. I mean, we're already talking about how if Danny had gone first, it might well have actually changed the entirety of that first game result. Now, interestingly, both of the players mulliganed when they were on the draw, and as a testament to how that loss of card advantage being, just being able to have more cards than your opponent, or making plays that get you more card value than a single card. As a testament to what card advantage has diminished in meaning as of late, both players had plenty of cards in their hand at the end of the game. So having one less card, it's not like it did very much to them. They just didn't have enough time to even use the cards they had.
Yeah, card advantage really only counts for like when when you get to low amount of cards, because it often becomes an advantage of like mana that you can use in the early game, and then later it becomes a card advantage game. So like it does shift at some point in the game.
Now, one of the funny things, oh, okay, we're seeing these cards come on out. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Danny Goldstein? Yep.
Let's
see if he gets the good 6 he wants.
He does get a land. He gets 2 land, which I think he's going to be happy with. Oh, 3 land. He has a cavern, a swamp, a Blackheath Cliffs. It doesn't look like he has that much in the way of attacking creatures. He has, I believe, a Blood Artist and a Brimstone Volley. I didn't see what the 6th card was. So it's a dangerous keep because he doesn't really have any creatures that attack that I know of. He's going to roll a die to decide what he's going to keep. I don't know if he actually was just making a show of rolling a die, but he definitely did not. Oh wow, he drew a Digraph Ghoul. That's a big deal. So the other card he had in his hand was a Phyrexian Metamorph.
Yep. No flip for Delver.
Yeah, no, that was a big draw for Danny.
Yep. And interestingly, the Digraph Ghoul coming into play tapped. If Danny ends up dying at exactly 0 life, you'll see the actual cost of that Digraph Ghoul. A lot of people think it has very little in the way of disadvantage.
Yeah.
It really does matter that you're coming into play tapped.
But Danny's had some really good draws. He's needed something to fill his mana curve at 1 and 3, and he, in consecutive draw steps, has drawn Digraph Ghoul and Geralf's Messenger. So hindsight's 20/20, but it was a good keep for him now.
2 Delvers face off against 2 small black creatures. One is a zombie, one is a vampire.
Yeah.
And no flippy flips for those Delvers.
This is a crucial flip. This is the game kind of played out very similarly to game 1, except that there's no flip, and I think you'll see the difference in that. Oh wow, Augur of Bolas comes down for Josh, basically stopping Danny attacking with any of the creatures he has down.
Finds a Vapor Snag.
Again.
And the mana for it.
Wow. So the next turn, Danny draws another Cliffs. Allows him to play a Geralf's Messenger the next turn.
In for 2.
Yeah, he's just testing the waters. He knows it's pretty much no chance that Josh will not block.
Well, he is telegraphing that he has something else there because he's actually opening himself up to 2 more damage by doing that attack.
Yeah, there's no reason why he should play the Cavern here. He's not going to get countered. The Cliffs is going to come and play tap next turn, so I think he should be playing the Cliffs this turn. It's the last turn that the Cliffs is going to come play untapped. Yeah, there he goes.
He goes with it, and Messenger, take 2. And passes back to Josh Robinson.
I'm pretty sure that attack with the Digraph Ghoul is not correct, for the simple fact that now the Delvers can attack. It really...
No matter what.
Yeah, there was a very small...
Okay.
Luckily, it didn't matter anyway.
Quote unquote, luckily they flipped over. Luckily for Danny Goldstein.
Well, luckily that the mistake didn't matter.
And O-Ring takes
that
out of here.
That is a brutal...
buddy.
I think this is a really troublesome situation. This is going to force Danny to either clone...
I think he's going to have... Oh, he didn't do it. I was going to say, I think he's going to have to cavern... Oh, no, he's just going to burn one of those guys. That's smarter than copying. And the burn does also afford him, unless Josh Robinson bounces... Yep, there it goes. It affords him a little bit of a drain. You saw Danny gesture towards Josh. That's +1 life, -1 life. Danny getting a little bit of a boost back.
Yeah, so he has like 4 turns of Delver hits that can...
And he comes in for 2. Or he's going to try to... Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the 1/3, obviously. Yeah. But that Blood Artist, that gain of 1 life is one of those things that it sometimes doesn't feel significant, but other times it's the entire world.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look like this game. The
Doomblade.
Doomblade's definitely good here. He needs to be a little careful not to run it into either a Restoration Angel or to have it countered. So
yeah, I think if I'm Danny Goldstein, what I do is I probably just pass.
I think it's possible that he might be going for whatever creature type the Metamorph is.
Oh yeah, Shapeshifter. Shapeshifter on the Insectile Aberration.
Yeah.
Making color and spending it on this 2 life here. Cavern Zombies. I would have named Shapeshifter there. I hope this doesn't get mana leaked.
It's very possible the mana leaks.
Mana leak usually gets sideboarded out in these kinds of matchups, but still. And pass. Are we going to see a Angel come to the party? Vapor Snag on the Metamorph. And he goes and says, Doomblade that guy. Does that work?
There is another Vapor Snag in Josh's hand, so he can do it there. I don't know how many cards in Josh's hand, but now that Danny is empty-handed, this mulligan is going to start hurting him.
Yeah, I mean, he has pushed the boundaries of his mana every turn, and empty-handed now, it's always better to have 1 card than no cards, hence the value of card advantage.
So Josh basically, pretty sure he doesn't have a counter spell. He's just working out whether he wants to Vapor Snag his own Insectile Aberration. That usually telegraphs the fact that you probably are a little threat light. So he does it.
He does, yeah. Now this does 2 things. It prevents Danny from gaining 1 life, which is actually an important thing, and it preserves the ability for Josh to have a attacker in the future of the game.
Yeah.
And the Delver is redropped.
Okay.
Just a quick note, in the draft open, some of our players over there, Joshua Cho, Brian Braun-Dwin, Ben Hayes, Patrick Cox, Cedric Phillips, Jerry Thompson, Christian Colcano, Patrick Sullivan, and of course, Atlanta's own Saul Malka, inventor of the Rock. Now, Saul Malka has won every draft open he has come to, so good luck fighting against some of these big dogs here, Saul.
Okay. One of the interesting things is, like, Danny cannot clone a flyer until it hits him once. So he actually has to go to 3 before he can actually play Phyrexian Metamorph again.
And then go to 1 for paying it for it without the blue mana.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I think naming zombies was not correct.
I agree.
Like, he's had to, now when he plays it, he has to pay 2 every time. If he actually had the Cavern on Shapeshifter, he'd be able to play it for 4 mana, not having to pay the Phyrexian mana cost. Danny's really on the back foot here. He doesn't really have the tools. He really has to hope that Josh draws a few blanks for a few turns and doesn't flip the Delver.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Cavern on Zombies was just not thinking it through.
Yeah, no.
You're used to naming something, and so you name it, but really something else might be the way.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, it's very likely, and I think if he's played the matchup much, he knows that Mana Leak comes out a lot. So the actual uncounterability of the...
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
I think that is actually it, unless he draws a removal spell right now.
Well, it's not it yet. I mean, Danny hasn't lost that 2 life from the Metamorph yet.
It's true. It's true. He now can't cast the Metamorph. Metamorph is now locked out.
Oh, what is this?
Oh, it's going to be a...
Oh! Wow. Out of the way. Take 2, take 4. Good game.
The winner of the Standard Open at the in Atlanta is Josh Robinson with Blue White Delver. Blue White Delver holding onto its kingdom for the last standard tournament. It can be played.